on the left.
Okay, let's get it. Congressman Lieu, this is all over the place, but the question of a national emergency is not something to be argued about. There is either an emergency or is it not. Is it appropriate for the president to be talking in such language?
Absolutely not. There is a crisis, though, in healthcare and infrastructure. That's what Democrats want to work on. Instead, we're having this big distraction of this manufactured crisis that doesn't exist at the southern border. Again, if you look at the facts, crime is down, both violent and property crime. Immigrants, both documented and undocumented, commit less crime. And Democrats support border security. We just don't support an inefficient and wasteful fourth-century wall. So we can prevent a lot of these things from happening at the southern border with much more efficient mechanisms. That's why we're having this argument, because Trump wants his vanity wall.
Well, Shannon, back to you in the news here, because it seems to me the news, and I've been away a couple of weeks, but the big news to me is this has reached a head. Nancy Pelosi is not somebody to be played with. She's got a mandate from the voters. This past November, she has a whole new crop of women, a lot of young women, a lot of people on the left, a lot of people who did not come into Congress to play ball with Donald Trump. Well, they don't want me. They don't want deals.
I don't think this is coming to a head. I mean, I think this just got started a couple days ago, and it's not come to a head because neither side is feeling any political pressure.
Well, that's I'm going to this national television address tomorrow night
to speak to his base, to speak to Republicans. I mean, I think John's point is sort of you can argue with it or not, but the Republicans perceive immigration as a major issue. You can argue whether or not it should be perceived as a major issue, but they feel it is. So while most of the Americans will probably tune out a national address from the president in prime time, you speak to Republicans who see the president.
Okay, we only have a minute. I want to put a question to both of you. Do you think the president thinks he can win a war of attrition? Just wait it out, wait it out? I don't think so. This thing about the garbage piling up and the paychecks not being delivered and people not getting their tax returns, they're not getting their returns, this thing is going to get worse and worse for the president. Isn't it smarter for him to move now and just break this thing open with a national emergency declaration? It seems like that's what he's thinking.
Yeah, possibly.
He can't win a war of attrition.
Yeah, but then it just gets kicked into court. I mean, who knows what happens then?
John, can he win a war? Can he win a long-term shutdown? Can he win a long-term shutdown?
Well, he's taking a good step tomorrow. He knows he has a bigger megaphone to the national people than Nancy Pelosi does. He's going to use that to redefine and not talk about a wall, but talk about national security and the importance of keeping Americans
What's he
safe.
then do? He can't just talk.
What he's going to do is he's going to lay out the case of why there is a national problem, emergency, and say, I don't want to start there, but the Democrats don't care about your security. If they refuse to do something about protecting your family, I will.
Congressman, last word to you and the question, what will be the rebuttal? What will be the ultimate response tomorrow night at 9:20 or so after the president has spoken? It'll be on this network. What will the Congress do if the president says, I'm shifting a couple $billion from money spent to defend this country to build a wall? What will the Congress do? Or just wait for the courts?
I believe the House of Representatives would sue. In addition, what we have here is a House of Representatives passing two versions to reopen government in terms of bills to the U.S. Senate. One last month that had wall funding, one last week that did not. Wall funding. So really you have a Republican-controlled Senate that is not acting on either of these packages, and it's really Republican senators that are just as at fault as the president is in having this unnecessary shutdown that's harming a lot of Americans.
For a president to arbitrarily take billions of dollars, which has been earmarked for national defense, and shift it over to a wall, is that an impeachable offense? Impeachable offense? Would that be an article?
Yeah. It could be. And the Supreme Court in 1953 struck down President Truman's national emergency where he tried to seize or steal mills, saying you can't just make up a national emergency and do something that you couldn't do normally. And what we're going to see tomorrow is the president maybe trying to get a face-saving way out so you can throw this into the courts. But if he wants to reopen government, that's great. And if he wants to reopen government and then declare a national emergency and then we have the courts battle it out, that's something I can live with, because we shouldn't be harming all these Americans as well as our national parks and people who are at risk of losing their homes.
You said it could be impeachable. What would be the condition for it being impeachable? What would make it impeachable?
That if his advisors told him this is illegal and he went ahead and did it and then put our military personnel at risk of following an illegal order and committing federal crimes, that's a pretty significant obligation of the president to protect our military folks as well.
Thank you so much, U.S. Congressman Ted Lieu.